So, in today's video lecture, we will be discussing about how to analyze the kinetics of a consecutive reaction. So, first let us define what is a consecutive reaction. So, consecutive reaction is a reaction in which the product obtained from the first step of the reaction will react with each other or react with one of the reactants to give a new product, which in turn may react with each other or one of the intermediate products or reactant to form one more product. So this such type of reactions are called as consecutive reactions. So reactions, new set of reaction takes place one after the other. For a simple example or a scheme for a consecutive reaction will be, so if I have a reactant A, okay, so it gets converted to B. Now this B, okay, either react with another molecule of B, or it may react with the reactant A and result in the formation of a new product C, and this new product C may further undergo reaction to give another product D. So such type of reactions are called as consecutive reactions, where the product of one reaction will further react with each other or with any one of the reactant to form another new product. To give an example for consecutive reaction is thermal decomposition of acetone. Okay, thermal decomposition of acetone. So if we take acetone, when this acetone is heated to a certain temperature, in the first step it decomposes to form ketene. Okay, it decomposes in the first step to form ketene as the primary product. Okay, and this product ketene in the next step will further decompose. Okay, will further decompose to form ethene plus carbon monoxide. So this is an example for a consecutive reaction, because here the initial reactant, okay, that is acetone, which we can call it as A, in the first step forms B, and this B in the second step forms C. Okay, so this is an example for consecutive reaction, A giving B giving C, where the product of the first step undergoes further reaction to give another product C. So this is an example for consecutive reaction. And remember, the overall rate of a consecutive reaction is determined by the rate of the slowest step. Okay, so while considering the kinetics of a consecutive reaction, the overall rate of the reaction is determined by the rate of the slowest step. So we should clearly understand the important difference in analyzing the kinetics of a reversible reaction, parallel reaction and consecutive reaction. What happens in a reversible reaction? The overall rate of a reversible reaction, which you can also call as net rate of the reaction, is rate of forward reaction minus rate of backward reaction. There we took net rate of the reaction. When it comes to parallel reaction, the overall rate of the reaction is nothing but the sum of the rate of each step involved in the reaction. Suppose if the parallel reaction involves two steps, then the overall rate of the reaction is rate of the first step plus rate of the second step. Okay, so now we see that in a consecutive reaction, in order to decide the overall rate of the reaction, we have to consider the slowest step. So the way we analyze a reversible reaction is different from the way we analyze a parallel reaction, which is again different from the analysis of a consecutive reaction. I will repeat, in a reversible reaction we consider net rate, which is the rate of the forward step minus rate of the backward step. In the parallel reaction we take the overall rate, which is the sum of the rates of all the steps, whereas in the consecutive reaction we consider the slowest step of the reaction, which decides the overall rate of the reaction. So let us consider one simple general consecutive reaction and try to analyze the kinetics of that reaction mathematically. Okay, so our main aim is to find out the expression for concentration of the reactants and different products as a function of time. Okay, so let us consider it now. So let us consider a simple consecutive reaction where reactant A is converted to a product B which further reacts and form product C. Okay, so this is the simplest possible consecutive reaction containing only two steps, and we are also assuming that each step is a first order reaction. Okay, so each step, A giving B and B giving C, both follow first order reaction. And let us assign the rate constant. K1 is the rate constant of the first step and K2 is the rate constant of the second step. Okay, so let us complete this scheme. Suppose Ht is equal to 0. Okay, A represents the initial concentration of the reactant, and since the reaction has not yet started at T is equal to 0, concentration of the product B is 0, and therefore the concentration of product C is also 0. At certain time T is equal to T, maybe it may be 5 minutes, 10 minutes or 15 minutes, so on. Let X represent, okay, the concentration of the reactant A at time T. Okay, so here you have to note one point, very important point, that the definition of X is now completely different from the way we defined X in reversible or parallel reaction. Okay, what did X represent earlier? X represents the amount of A that has undergone reaction, but here X does not represent the amount of A that has undergone reaction. X represents now the amount of A that has been left, okay, without undergoing any reaction. So X represents the concentration of the reactant which has not undergone reaction. So what is A minus X? A minus X is the concentration of the reactant which has undergone reaction. So we have changed the definition of X. Please keep this in mind. In the consecutive reaction, the meaning of X is different. So here X represents the concentration of the reactant A remaining at a time T. And let us assume that Y is the concentration of the product, okay, that is present at a time T, and Z is the concentration of the product C at time T. Now we observe a very simple mathematical relation between four concentration terms. You have four concentration terms: A, X, Y, Z. What is A? A is the total concentration of the reactant A, which is nothing but the initial concentration. X is the concentration of A which is remaining unreacted. Y is the concentration of product B formed, and Z is the concentration of product C. Now we can see a very simple relation that A is equal to X plus Y plus Z. A very simple relation. A is equal to X plus Y plus Z, because suppose, okay, if I have taken 100 molecules, okay, I will let us speak in terms of molecules. Let us assume that A is equal to 100 molecules. We have taken 100 molecules of A. Out of 100 molecules, X is equal to 50 molecules remain unreacted. So X is equal to 50. What is 50? 50 molecules of A remaining unreacted. So how much has reacted? The other 50 molecules has reacted. That other 50 molecules, okay, will be converted to B, and out of that B formed, some amount has further undergone reaction to form C. So out of 50 molecules of A that has undergone reaction, 30 molecules of B may be present, remaining 20 molecules would be in the form of C. So the total, if I add X plus Y plus Z, that total should be equal to 100, or that should be equal to A, because the source for all these B and C is A. So how much I have taken A initially should be equal to how much A that is left behind plus how much B is formed plus how much C is formed. So A is equal to X plus Y plus Z is a very important relation in the case of consecutive reaction. This we will use later, okay, at the end of the discussion. Now let us try to find out what an expression for concentration of A at time t, concentration of B at time t, and concentration of C at time t. Okay, so this is quite interesting. So first let us try to find out the concentration of A. So before that, okay, let us consider or look, okay, so at each species and try to see in how many reactions they are involved. Reactant A is involved only in the first step. Similarly, product C is involved only in the second step, whereas product B is involved in two steps. It is involved in the step 1 where it is formed. It is also involved in the second step where it is converted to C. So A and C are involved only in single steps, whereas B is involved in two steps. So first let us consider what is the rate of disappearance of reactant A. The rate of disappearance of reactant A, that is the rate of the first step, okay, in terms of reactant, is minus dx by dt. That is rate of change of concentration of the reactant with respect to time, minus sign signifying that concentration of A decreases with respect to time. So rate minus dx by dt is equal to rate constant of the first step K1 into concentration of the reactant at time t, that is x. So this is the rate for the first step. The rate of disappearance of reactant A minus dx by dt is equal to rate constant K1 into concentration of A at a time t, that is x. So let us rearrange this equation. Minus dx divided by x is equal to K1 into dt. Let us now integrate. Integration, minus I will take it outside. So dx divided by x is equal to K1 into integration of dt. Okay, so in this step we have rearranged the terms in such a way that all the x terms are on the LHS constant and the term involving t is in the RHS, and then in the next stage we have integrated this equation. Minus dx by x, K1 is a constant, into integration of dt. On integration we get minus ln x. Okay, integration of 1 by x is ln x is equal to K1 into t plus integration constant. Okay, so we get a integration constant C. How to find out the value of integration constant? Again we have to apply the initial condition, that is at t is equal to 0. What is the value of x? This is very important. Remember, we have changed the definition of x. X is not now the concentration of A which has undergone reaction. X represents the concentration of A which has not undergone reaction. So at t is equal to 0, x is not equal to 0 as we had in the previous case. So at t is equal to 0, what is x now? X is nothing but equal to A. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ x ಏನನ್ನು represent ಮಾಡ್ತದೆ? X represents the concentration of A which has not undergone reaction, and at t is equal to 0, A reaction ಇನ್ನು ಹೋಗಿಲ್ಲ ಆಗಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ at t is equal to 0, the value of x is nothing but the initial concentration A. So if we apply this condition here, we get therefore minus ln A is equal to K1 into t, that is 0, plus C. So we get C is equal to minus ln A. So this is the value of integration constant. So substituting this value in equation 2 and simplifying it, we get minus ln x is equal to K1 into t plus C, that is minus ln A. Or let us take this minus ln A to LHS, you get ln A minus ln x is equal to K1 into t, or ln of A by x is equal to K1 into t. Log A minus log B is log of A by B. Or what I will do is I will interchange the numerator and denominator, so you can write it as ln of x by A. And what we have to do when you interchange the numerator and denominator, when you have a logarithmic function, you have to multiply by minus 1, so you get minus K1 into t. So the whole exercise was to find out an expression for x, that is the concentration of the reactant. So let us take anti-log on both the sides. Okay, let us take anti-log on both the sides. Okay, taking anti-log on both the sides, anti-log of log, they get cancelled with each other, so you get x divided by a is equal to, when I take the anti-log here, it is nothing but, okay, exponential to the power minus k1 into t, which implies x is equal to a into e power minus k1 into t. So this is the expression, for the concentration of reactant A remaining unreacted at a time t. X is equal to a into e to the power minus k1 t, where a is the initial concentration of the reactant, k1 is the rate constant of the first reaction. So this is the expression for the concentration of A remaining at the time t. And again, since you have exponential to the minus, okay, so this exponential is in the minus form with respect to time. So what does it indicate? With the time, as the value of t increases, this term decreases exponentially. So the concentration of the reactant decreases exponentially with respect to time, which is an obvious phenomena or observation for any first order reaction, right? Remember, I told you earlier that for any first order reaction, the concentration of the reactant decreases exponentially with respect to time, and we are observing a similar fact here also, that concentration of A decreases exponentially with respect to time. Okay, we will concentrate on this equation again later. Now let us try to find out an expression for y and z. What are y and z? They are the concentration of the product B and product C at time t. Okay, so let us look again at this reaction scheme. As I already told you, reactant A is involved only in one step, that is the first step. Similarly, product C is involved only in one step, that is in the second step, while B is involved in both the steps. It is involved in the first step as the product, it is involved in the second step as a reactant. So let us consider the rate of formation of product C. Okay, that is dz by dt, or you can also write it as dc by dt. It is nothing but the rate of formation of product C. Since C is formed in the second step, you can write it as the rate of formation of C is equal to rate constant of the second step K2 into what is the reactant for the second step? B is the reactant, so you can write it as K2 into concentration of B at time t, which is nothing but rate dz by dt is equal to K2. This is nothing but represented as Y. Okay, concentration of B at time t is Y. Now let us consider the net rate of formation of B. Why we are using this term net rate of formation of B? As I already told you, B is involved in two steps. In the first step, B is formed from A, but as soon as B is formed, some amount of B is converted to C. So the overall rate of formation of B, okay, it is decided by the rate in which B is formed from the first step and the rate at which B is decomposed in the second step. So that is why we are considering the net rate of formation of B. So the net rate of formation of B is nothing but rate of formation of B in the first step minus rate of formation of C in the second step. So the net rate at which B is formed is the rate of formation of B in the first step minus rate of decomposition of B, or you can say it as rate of formation of C in the second step. So dy by dt, that is the net rate of formation of B. You can also write it as dB by dt, the net rate of formation of B is equal to rate of formation of B in the first step. How do you express rate? It is rate constant of the first step into the concentration of the reactant at time t, that is K1 into X. So this is the rate of formation of B from the first step minus rate of formation of C in the second step. What is the rate of formation of C in the second step? According to equation 4, it is K2, that is the rate constant of the second reaction, into concentration of the reactant for the second step, that is Y. So the net rate of formation of B dy by dt is equal to K1 into X minus K2 into Y, which can be further written as dy by dt or dB by dt is equal to K1. What is X? We have already found out an expression for X, that is A into e to the power minus K1 into t minus K2 into y. Okay, this is obtained from equation 3. Okay, from equation 3 we have borrowed the expression for X. So this equation 5 is a first order linear differential equation. So if you solve this linear first order differential equation, you can find out what is the expression for Y, that is concentration of B. We will not go into the mathematical details of solving that differential equation. We will only concentrate on the final expression. And what is the final expression? The final expression is, okay, solving equation 5, which is a first order linear differential equation, we get y is equal to a into e to the power minus k2 into t into k1 into e to the power k2 minus k1 into t divided by k2 minus k1 minus k1 divided by k2 minus k1. Okay, so this is the expression we immediately get when we solve equation 5. But we can further simplify this, because you have k2 minus k1 as a common factor. You can further simplify it and get k1 into a divided by k2 minus k1 into e to the power minus k1 into t minus e to the power minus k2 into t. Okay, this is the expression for the concentration of B, product B at time t. Okay, so by simplifying this equation, you can readily verify, okay, that you get this equation, which is an expression for concentration of product B. Now you can find out what is the concentration of C. Okay, if you go back to the very important mathematical relation that we have discussed in equation number 1. What is equation number 1? That is the initial concentration of the reactant, that is the total concentration of the reactant A that had taken at the beginning, is equal to A is equal to X, that is the concentration of the reactant remaining unreacted, plus the net concentration of B that is formed, plus the concentration of C that is formed at time t. So from this relation you can write it, Z is equal to therefore A minus X minus Y. Since A represents the initial concentration, okay, it is a known value, and we have already determined what is X. Okay, what is X is given by equation 3, and also the value of Y is known now, because Y can be calculated using equation 6. So therefore Z can be easily calculated by substituting what is X and what is Y. X is A into e to the power minus k1 into t minus Y. Y is k1 into A divided by k2 minus k1 into e to the power minus k2 into, k1 into t minus e to the power minus k2 into t. Okay, so if you simplify this equation, okay, you get Z is equal to A divided by K2 minus K1. What you have to do is, first you have to take K2 minus K1 as a common denominator, okay, and then remove A divided by K2 minus K1 as a constant term. You will end up with K2 minus K2 into e to the power minus K1 into T minus K1 minus K1 into e to the power minus K2 into T. Okay, this is the expression for the concentration of the product C at a time T. So we are we have now obtained an expression. So our main aim at the beginning of this discussion was to find out a suitable expression for the concentration terms of A, B and C. Okay, it is given by equation 3 for the concentration of the reactant, equation 6 for the concentration of the product B, and equation 7 for the concentration of the product C. Okay, by looking it is easy to interpret equation 3, okay, because I already told you what is the meaning of equation 3. It states that the concentration of the reactant decreases exponentially with respect to time, but it is very difficult to analyze and understand exactly how the concentration of B and concentration of T varies with respect to time. So in order to understand it, what we have to do is we have to plot a graph of concentration versus time, and then it is easy to understand how these concentration varies with respect to time. So let us plot a graph of concentration versus time. Okay, it is easy to interpret this graph. So we'll plot concentration versus time, where x represent either reactant A or product B or C. So first let us plot concentration of A versus time. So according to equation 3, I already told you it varies exponentially with respect to time. So at the beginning, when T is equal to 0, its concentration of the reactant was maximum, that is A. With the time, as it reacts, its concentration decreases exponentially according to equation 3. And what about C? Concentration of product. The concentration of product goes on increasing with respect to time, because it is not participating in any other reaction, it is not consumed by any other reaction. So the concentration of product C gets accumulated with respect to time. Okay, so the concentration of C goes on increasing with respect to time. Now the interesting is, this is okay, this is A, this is C. The interesting is, how does the concentration of B varies with respect to time. Remember, I already told you B is involved in two steps. In the first step it is formed, whereas in the second step it is consumed. So the net rate of formation of B is decided by two rates, the rate of formation of B and rate of disappearance of B. Okay, so the overall concentration of B at any time is decided by the rate of these two steps. At the beginning of the reaction, the rate of the first step will be very much larger compared to the rate of the second step. Why? Because at the beginning concentration of A will be very high, concentration of B formed will be very low. So since the concentration of A is very high, rate of the first reaction will be very large, whereas the rate of the second reaction at the beginning will be very small because of the small concentration of B. So at the beginning the rate of formation of B will be very much larger than the rate of formation of C, or the rate of decomposition of B. So at the beginning, with the time, what happens to the net rate of formation of B? The net rate of formation of B increases with respect to time. So there is an accumulation of B with respect to time. But after certain amount of time, what happens is the rate of the second reaction catches up with the rate of the first reaction. Why? With the time, the value of concentration of A goes on decreases, whereas concentration of B goes on increases. So after certain time, even the rate of the second reaction matches with the rate of the first reaction. So at the beginning, B is formed at a much higher rate than it is decomposed, but after certain amount of time, the rate at which B is formed is almost equal to the rate at which B is decomposing. After certain amount of time, what will happen is the rate of the second step will exceed the rate of the first step. In that case, the concentration of B will start decreasing because the rate at which it is getting decomposed will be much greater than the rate at which it is formed. So how will the concentration of B vary with respect to time now? At t is equal to 0, concentration of B is 0. With the time at the beginning, the concentration of B goes on increasing because the rate of formation of B is much higher compared to rate of decomposition of B. Up to certain time it increases and it reaches a maximum value, okay, and it reaches a maximum value and then it starts decreasing, so what does this maximum value represent? Okay, this point represents a state where the concentration of B remains almost constant for a certain period of time. Why? Because the rate of formation of B from the first step will be almost equal to rate of decomposition of B in the second step. So the net rate of formation of B is almost 0. Okay, the concentration of B remains almost constant. So after that, what will happen? The rate of the second reaction will be much greater than the rate of the first reaction. So B is getting reacted at a much faster rate than the rate at which it is formed. So what happens? The concentration of B starts decreasing with respect to time. So there are a lot of differences in how the concentrations vary with respect to time. Concentration of A decreases with respect to time exponentially. Concentration of C continuously increases with respect to time, whereas concentration of B steadily increases, reaches a maximum value and then it starts decreasing. So this is how the three concentration terms vary with time. Now let us consider two limiting cases, okay, two very special cases of these two equations. Let us assume that K1 is much greater than K2, that is rate constant of the first step is much greater than the rate constant of the second step. That is one case. The other case is rate constant K2 is much greater than rate constant K1. Then what will happen to these equations? Let us understand. Okay. So let us consider two cases. The first case is K1 is much greater than K2. K1 is much greater than K2. That is, this first step, rate of the first step is much greater than the rate of the second step. So the second step is the slowest step and therefore it will be the rate determining step. So now the second step is the slowest and therefore rate determining step. Is it true? Let us see. Okay, as per our theoretical consideration, this is true. That is, now the second step is the slowest and therefore the rate determining step. Let us try to analyze it mathematically. Now let us find out an expression for Z. Okay, let us try to find out an expression for Z. What is Z? Z is given by equation 7. But before that, okay, since K1 is much greater than K2, e to the power minus K1t will be much lesser than e to the power minus K2 into t. Because K1 is much greater than K2, e to the power minus K1 into t will be much lesser than e to the power minus K2 into t, because K1 is much greater than K2. So let us use this in equation 7. So here I have K2 minus K1, but K2 is much smaller than K1, so let us ignore K2. Similarly, here I have K2, here I have K1. Again, K2 is negligible compared to K1, so let us ignore this term. Now let us compare these two terms. Here I have K2, here I have K1. Here I have e to the power minus k1 into t. Here I have e to the power minus k2 into t. Let us compare it with these two. K2 smaller into e to the power minus k1t, that is also smaller. So smaller number into smaller number becomes much smaller. Here I have k1 is much greater than k2. Okay, e to the power minus k2 into t, e to the power minus k2 into t is much greater than e to the power minus k1 to t. So you have a very large number into large number. So this number is very large compared to this term, because k2 is less than k1. This term is much less than this term. So overall this term is much larger compared to this term. So what we can do is we can neglect k2 here. Here also we can ignore it. Also we can ignore this term compared to this term. So now the expression for z, that is the concentration of C formed at time t, will become A divided by, let us ignore k2, so you get minus k1, so I will write minus here, k1 into, this is ignored, this is also ignored, so minus k1 minus of minus plus k1 into e to the power minus k2 into t, that is z is equal to minus a divided by k1 into, let me take minus k1 as common term here, minus k1 is common, so we get 1 minus e to the power minus k2 into t. Therefore z becomes k1 gets cancelled, minus into minus is now a into 1 minus e to the power minus k2 into t. So equation 7 gets simplified into this expression by using this condition. Now you can clearly see from this expression that the concentration of the product C at a particular time depends only on the rate constant K2. It does not depend on rate constant K1. And what is K2? K2 is the rate constant of the smallest step involved in the reaction. So the rate of formation of product C depends only on the rate constant of the slowest step involved in the reaction. Therefore the slowest step is the rate determining step. So we again here confirming that the slowest step is the rate determining step. Okay, now let us try to plot concentration versus time again. Okay, the previous plot was a very general plot. Now we are plotting concentration versus time for this particular case when K1 is much greater than K2. Okay, reactant varies. Okay, similarly there is no change, it varies exponentially with respect to time. Okay, so concentration of A varies very much in a similar fashion. Now let us concentrate on B and C. As I already told you, K1 is much greater than K2. That is, the first reaction is much greater than the rate of the second reaction. What does it mean? Product B is formed at much faster rate than the rate at which it is decomposed. So with the time, concentration of B goes on increasing. B gets accumulated more and more, and only a small amount of it is converted to C, because the rate of the second step is very slow. So even at a large period of time, the concentration of B will be very large, and after a large passage of time, this second step starts catching up with the first step, and then what will happen, the rate of the second step will be almost matching with the rate of the first step. So the concentration of B starts decreasing with respect to time. So with the time, concentration of B goes on increasing, and then it starts decreasing. So this variation from increase to decrease happens after passage of a long period of time, because the rate of the first reaction is much greater than the rate of the second reaction. So almost the first reaction has almost got completed at this stage. Okay, and then since the first reaction has almost got completed, then the concentration of B decreases because it is now getting converted to C. So the time interval that has passed Okay, for the curve to move from this increasing mode to decreasing mode, the time is very large. And what about C? Since the rate of the second reaction is very small, the amount of C that is formed with respect to time is very small. Okay, so it takes a long interval of time and then it starts increasing. Okay, it starts increasing. So this is how the concentrations of A, B and C vary with respect to time. I will repeat again. A varies exponentially, it decreases exponentially. What about B? Initially it increases gradually, it increases at much faster rate, not gradually, much faster rate for a long period of time, and after a very long period of time where almost the first reaction has got complete, okay, then its concentration starts decreasing because of the occurrence of the second reaction. So this time interval is very large. Now let us consider the second case. The second case, in the second case, now K2 is much greater than K1. That is, the rate constant of the second step is much greater than the rate constant of the first step. What does it mean? The first step is very slow compared to the second step, and therefore from our guessing, the first step should be the rate determining step. So the immediate significance of this condition is e to the power minus k2 into t will be much lesser than e to the power minus k1 into t. Because k2 is much greater than k1, you immediately get this condition: e to the power minus k2 into t is much lesser than e to the power minus k1 into t. If you substitute this condition here, now k1 is negligible compared to k2. Here also k1 is negligible compared to k2. Now k2 into e to the power minus k1t is much greater than k1 into e to the power minus k2t, because if you compare these two terms, you have k2 and k1, out of which k2 is much larger. If I compare these two exponential terms, e to the power minus k1 into t is much greater than e to the power minus k2 into t. So a large number into large number gives a very large number. Smaller number into smaller number is much small. So these two terms are negligible. Okay, by using the same procedure that I have written here, you can find out an expression for z. It is z is equal to a into 1 minus e to the power minus k1 into t. A very similar expression. The only difference is instead of k2 you have k1. So the concentration of the product C formed at a time t now depends on the rate constant k1, which is the rate constant of the slowest step. Therefore, again, the overall rate of formation of the product C depends on K1, that is the slowest step or the rate determining step involved in the reaction. So again, we are observing that the overall rate is now decided by the slowest step. Now let us try to plot the concentration of A, B and C with respect to time. So now the case is K2 is much greater than K1. We are plotting X versus T. Again, the variation of the reactant is same. It decreases exponentially with respect to time. It has no effect whether K1 is greater than K2 or K2 is greater than K1. Okay, the variation of A is one and the same. Now let us consider how the concentration of B varies with respect to time. So now the rate of the first step is very slow, the rate of the second step is very fast. So when B is formed from the first step, that will be immediately converted to C. Okay, so whatever B is formed from the first step, which is formed in a very slow manner, it will be immediately converted into C, because the rate of the second reaction is very fast. So at any instant of time, the concentration of B will be very less or almost equal to 0, because B will react to form C immediately when it is formed. Okay, when A forms B, that B will immediately undergo reaction to form C. So the net concentration of B at any instant of time will be very less. So how does the concentration of B vary with time? So at the beginning, the concentration of B increases gradually, but immediately it starts decreasing. It immediately starts decreasing. Okay, so you can observe the difference in how B varies with respect to time in both the cases. Here you have to see the two important difference. One is the time where this peak appears. Here that peak appears after a prolonged time. Here the peak appears at a very short interval of time. Why? Because now the rate of the second reaction is much faster than the rate of the first reaction. So ಏನೇ B form ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ immediately ಅದು ಏನಾಗಿ ಕನ್ವರ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ, immediately it will be converted to C. ಸೊ ರಿಯಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಿಕ್ಸ್ಚರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು B ಉಳ್ಕೊಳ್ತದೆ ಅದರ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ತುಂಬಾ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಇಮಿಡಿಯೇಟ್ಲಿ C ಆಗಿ ಕನ್ವರ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ this maximum appears at a very fast time. Okay, it appears at a very short time interval, whereas here that maximum appears after a prolonged time. The another that we have to observe is the height of this peak. Okay, so here the height of the peak is very large, whereas here the height of the peak is very small. This is obvious because the concentration of B in the reaction mixture will be very very less. So this is how B varies with respect to time. And what about C? I already told you, since the rate of this reaction, second reaction, is very fast, as soon as B is formed, it is immediately converted to C. So the value of concentration of C will start increasing at a much faster rate compared to that observed in the first case. So here the rate of formation of C will be very large. Therefore there will be an increase in the concentration of the reactants product C at a much earlier stage. Here you can see that at the beginning the concentration of C varied very slowly, and after a long time interval it started increasing, whereas here the concentration of C increases or starts to increase rapidly at the very beginning of the reaction. So you can note down the important differences between these two extreme cases. Here K1 is much greater than K2, and here K2 is much greater than K1. And the curve that or the plot that we discussed in the previous slide, that is a more general case or a more balanced case where the values of K1 and K2 are nearly comparable. But here they are not comparable. Either K1 is much greater than K2 or K2 is much greater than K1. So this is about the kinetics of consecutive reaction. So I would like to conclude this complex reaction by noting the important difference between reversible, parallel and consecutive reaction. In a reversible reaction, overall rate decide ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ we consider the net rate, that is rate of forward minus rate of backward reaction. Parallel reaction discuss ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ overall rate is the sum of the rate of each step involved in the reaction, whereas in the consecutive reaction the overall rate of the reaction is decided by the slowest step involved in the reaction. So that is the important difference in the kinetic analysis of these three reactions. There is one more complex reaction called surface reaction that we will discuss at the end. In the next class onwards we will discuss about the different experimental methods for determination of order of the reaction. Okay, what is order of the reaction, what is rate constant of the reaction, and we have already discussed about the expression for zeroth order, first order, second order rate constants, and also the expressions for half-life of zeroth order, first order, second order and nth order reactions. So all this will be used for understanding the different methods for determination of order of the reaction. Thank you.